So Deep Kalra is the CEO of Make My Trip. MMT's journey from being a pony to a unicorn has been pretty epic. And Deep has been one of India's poster boy entrepreneurs. Deep has also been very active in the startup ecosystem and is seen by many as a mentor. And interestingly, Deep is part of an industry. He's a demigod of an industry that has been badly impacted by the pandemic. And it's very interesting to hear him say that he's been advising the government to be a little more thoughtful in relaxing on the travel norms. So welcome, Deep.
Thank you very much, Hari, and very nice introduction and nice plug for your book. So well done.
Great, thank you. Now let's come to Heather. Heather Emsley is the Asia Pacific head at Google. She's responsible for G Suite and Google Cloud. She was with Microsoft for over a decade. She's best placed to talk about the digitization of the workplace and the role technology and AI has played in shaping the jobs landscape and continues to shape the job landscape. Welcome, Heather.
Right, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks.
Manish Sabarwal wears many hats. He's the founder of TeamLease, and he's been at the forefront of policy discussions related to labor legislation in India. Manish is also on the board of the Reserve Bank of India. Welcome, Manish.
Thank you.
Rajiv Dubey is the principal advisor at the Mahindra Group. He has worked for two large and iconic business houses, namely the Tatas as well as the Mahindras. Rajiv brings a rich and diverse set of insights on how large industrial conglomerates operate. Welcome, Rajiv. So Heather and Rajiv, one question is, we've been working from home, at least, as Manish said, those of us who are privileged to work from home have been working from home for the last 4 or 5 months. So what has worked? What hasn't worked? And remote working is not new. The entire outsourcing industry, multinationals operating in different countries with distributed teams have all been used to some kind of remote working. So the playbook in some ways seems to have been partially written at least. So what has worked and what hasn't worked in the last 5 months?
So it's actually been a really interesting time the last couple of months, I think, for us, just working with our customers. So we've had some customers who've been very fortunate and their transition has been pretty simple for most of their workers, to Manish's point, that could actually perform their function at home. Yeah. So the ability to move from a work office into a home office has been fairly simple from a technology perspective. However, technology is only one element of the work from home perspective. Not every home has an office. I'm fortunate, I have a room that was already set up as my office. My husband had to, unfortunately, take up the dining room table. I've had people in my team who didn't even have the luxury of a dining room table. They still live at home with their parents, and they've had to make makeshift office in their bedroom. Others haven't had enough bedrooms for the 3 kids that are at school. His teacher wife, he's been sitting in his main bedroom doing calls. So yes, technology has been there and it's really been easy for many companies to move there. But then there's been the physical element, which has been a challenge. The other challenge has really been around organizations where we quickly adopted technology, some sort of video conferencing technology, to make sure that everyone could connect. But now more and more, we're having a lot of companies come back to us and say, okay, maybe we need to relook at this. We might have compromised a policy. We're no longer in control of sometimes the devices and the network that our people are working on. Does this cause a potential security risk for us? So a lot of companies are coming to us and saying, okay, what is it we need to think about from how do we secure our video conferences? If we are recording them, are they being secured in an encrypted environment? What do we need to do on the device to make sure that in an unmanaged network, I'm protecting my data that is being stored? So that's another scenario that's come up quite a lot in our customers in the last 2 to 3 months. And then more recently, it's ease of collaboration. So not only about the video conferencing, but what are the tools I need to not do synchronous collaboration. So I work on a doc, I attach it to an email and I send it on. How do you start bringing groups together to work on a budget spreadsheet, on a document, on a presentation at any point in time, where we can be on a video conference and all of us be contributing at the same time. So that topic is coming up a lot more in there. We have seen the rise of AI tools as well, and that is more around things like automating mundane scenarios. So for instance, we've seen some call center technology where...
So maybe Heather, what I'll do is I'll specifically come to AI, because I think that's in itself...
Okay, I'll stop on AI, we can talk there. So those are the main things. So really around video conferencing, workplace scenarios, security has become top of mind, and then really collaboration or knowledge sharing tools. I'll stop there and let Rajiv add a bit more on that, but yeah.
Thank you, Heather. The first thing was that all of us discovered we could do much more than what we had thought working from home. Second is, it's very stressful. I think there's a complete erosion of the work-life balance, and I think some of the earlier speakers talked about it. I think it requires, we've discovered it requires a lot of discipline and a lot of trust and the ability of the command and control leadership to let go. So ironically, whereas technology is sort of becoming very important and you know how to deal with technology, the inner space, that is coming to the fore, who the leader or who people are, because it's, you know, how do you generate the trust? How do you generate the space for people? How do you let go of command and control? How do you show empathy to people? How do you not intrude on some time of theirs, because different people have different times and bosses are so used to picking up the phone and ringing up any time, and you may well disturb somebody, especially if they have young children. And I don't want to sound sort of sexist, but I think the working women, especially those with young children, seem to be having a really difficult time. So these are some of the things that I would like to report back on what we have learned and what are some of the problems that we need to deal with.
Deep, coming back to you, I think you understand the travel industry more than anyone else in the world, I'm assuming. And I think everyone is keen to know how the whole thing is likely to, unfold. Will people begin traveling after a while? Will travel be cut down? Will people stop doing meetings which are not necessary outside their base location? So just can you give us some insight? I think we're all very interested in how travel is likely to unfold, the future of travel, business travel, personal travel, vacations, everything.
Sure. No, I'll take a stab at it. And I definitely am not the most knowledgeable in travel in the world by any stretch. But I'm happy to share what I feel is going to happen. And it is undoubtedly, like Heather would know actually by fact, what are the most searched kind of phrases. I can tell you the most asked question of me by all my friends and family is, where can we go? When can we travel? And where is it safe to go? And it's evolving, right? The whole situation is evolving, whether it's within India, the quarantine rules between states are changing, whether it's even overseas. And if you look at overseas, can you go? And slowly there is some attempt at opening up with travel bubbles being formed, which has become a very interesting buzzword. I actually believe your social bubble, you will travel along with your social bubble and make it your travel bubble. And people are doing that. We are comfortable meeting this extended family or these 2 or 3 friends because we believe they're all being safe. Now we'll all get into a car or into our cars and we'll drive out and go somewhere. And if we are a little braver, we'll even, take a flight because the chance of catching the infection on a flight, if you're careful, is actually pretty low. But I believe for India, what is actually critical now is that we have testing protocols before we travel. There is no other way. Today, about 15% of domestic capacity is, or people are flying. 25 capacity is open, 25%, but only about 15% flying. Why are 85% not flying? They're not flying not because there's no need. Maybe some has come down due to less corporate activity, but actually there was bigger need because this was summer season. Everyone wanted to get away. They're not flying because of the fear. It's as simple as that. So we've got to take away the fear in a logical manner. And the only thing you can do is tell people that everyone needs to get tested. If you're going overseas, you can definitely afford a test for 2,400 rupees. It'll come down to under 2,000 rupees if done in bulk. And then, everyone who went to that airport was actually, at least they were 2 days ago or 1 day ago, they were negative test, way better than it is today. And at least everyone on the flight, still keep your mask up. Don't let your guard down. For domestic, I've been advocating actually the rapid test just because of cost reasons and quick. Again, it's better than nothing today. I've been telling my hotel partners, why are you not testing people when they come in or after a day or two? What's the downside? And you're afraid people won't come. I think it's the exact opposite. More people will come if they have the surety that everyone's getting tested. But it can't be a voluntary thing. You can't tell people, yeah, do it if you want to. No, everyone's got to do it. And that's the only way. And we unfortunately have been slow on that. There is risk that India might end up being an international pariah with our cases and 65,000 a day and the rest of the world muting it, effectively choking the virus. It won't take long before some country will say, listen, we love your business, we love Indians, but guess what? Not right now. Before that, we need to make testing protocol both ways. So right now, we've already relaxed our inbound rule. So if you're coming back, let's say you were a NRI or an Indian stranded overseas, although I think the repatriation and evacuation flights have gone on far too long. So the reality is, if you were coming back into India right now and you test yourselves 4 days before you fly, you can show that negative PCR certificate and you don't have to get quarantined. Logical. Now, the country we are willing to accept this from should be accepting our test reports too. Don't labs, and we're all qualified labs. And if some of them are not doing a good job, knock them off. So I think that's the only way we will give confidence back that, listen, it's no less safe than going to office. In fact, it could be safer because everyone got tested. So that's my view. It's going to be tough. I mean, as I always say, unfortunately, India has got all the factors you don't need to control a pandemic. We've got the population, we've got the poverty, and I hate to say this in front of a non-Indian, but we have the indiscipline and we all know it. So the reality is we've got, unfortunately, all of these factors and we've got to contend with them. And, so it's not going to be an easy haul. I think India will definitely stay the most impacted country for the longest time. So
great. Just switching gears a little bit once again, one problem I think we've all had is women in middle management and senior management. Would you think that this pandemic and the work from home model being proved in many ways, will this increase women's participation in the middle and senior management levels? Will it reduce the number who drop off? Have you seen any of that? Have you heard any conversations around this?
I absolutely feel that organizations that start adopting a flexible work environment potentially will start keeping more women in their middle management and some of their senior management positions. Because if you look at some women that either hold themselves back from moving in or taking on those next level roles, it's often because they have family commitments. And doing some of those more senior roles doesn't have the flexibility to either take the afternoon off and do what is needed, or you don't have that ability to work at home today because you've got certain things that you need to deal with. And it's not only parents or mothers of children. I think it's in general women that have responsibilities, whether it's elderly parents, the running of the home. I mean, I'll be upfront, I don't have kids, but there's days when there's stuff going on, when the aircon doesn't work like today, or something goes wrong in the house, I invariably have to deal with it. Just by the nature of various things. So having that flexibility, I think, is really important. And I do believe that women who have that access to that flexibility will definitely start taking more senior roles in organizations.
Great. So I think we're moving quickly to the last theme, which is, technology throughout history has shaped work more than anything else. And I think there is a good amount of research to show that net technology has created more jobs than it has taken away. But there is a belief, which seems to be a fairly wide belief, that AI is going to change the future of work like nothing before, and maybe even reduce the number of people needed at work. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, any of you. Heather, maybe we can start with you if you have.
I'll let go Rajiv because I've shared some points of view as well. So Rajiv, I'll let.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry. All right. In economics, there's a term ceteris paribus. If everything else remains the same. So if everything else remains the same, then clearly the number of jobs is going to go down because there is automation. But everything else is not going to remain the same. Right? And I personally hope that the power of technology will be used to solve a lot of fundamental problem areas where right now not too much employment is being generated. So, for example, using technology to sort out issues of healthcare, taking healthcare deep into the homes and say into rural India, using technology to solve waste management, using technology to solve the problems of water management, of governance. So I think a whole host of new industries, if you like, will get generated and they will create employment, but you'll require different skill sets. So I think very careful management and anticipation of what kind of skills will be required, what kind of new industries will come up, that is what will solve the problem. And not simply looking at a static situation where, some kind of routine jobs are being replaced by people. So the same job can become far more productive, and the combination of man and machine or man and technology can actually not necessarily cut down the overall number of jobs. Having said that, I don't think one can be too glib about it. I think in the Industrial Revolution, I'm told it took 100 years to restore the level of employment that was there before machines came in. This is what somebody told me in a labor economist conference. I won't vouch for that figure. But there surely will be a time when jobs will go down and we'll have to manage that. Hopefully, because of these new industries and because of new forms of workplaces, we'll get an increase. That's my hope.
Thanks, Rajiv. Great. Manish and Deep, 1 minute quick, if you have an opinion.
I think that we have to be very careful in applying this to India. It is very relevant for countries at the frontier of productivity. If your per capita income is $50,000, I think it matters. But for India, I mean, what is the nightmare of rich countries? That 45% of their labor force will generate 14% of their GDP. Hamara kya bigaad loge? We are already there, right? I mean, half our labor force is already only generating 40. So I would be a little careful in this whole, we can get to $10,000 per capita income, irrespective of what happens in AI, ML, and automation if we fix land, labor, capital. So the question for the world, Rajiv's point is important, ceteris paribus, but for India, let's not worry about it.
Makes sense. Deep, any final thought on this?
Slightly contrarian view, I think can be used very productively actually for areas where we have backlogs. So Manish and I were having that sidebar on online dispute resolution. We had a call just recently with Niti Aayog on this, and it's a great place where we can use actually machine learning and AI to help us clean up the backlog of cases which are routinized cases. So I think we have to apply. I'm with Manish in saying you don't need to do that in sectors where we have enough people. Let's play to our strengths. Let's not go and axe our own foot in a sense. But there are areas where we are far behind. We have huge backlogs where we can do clear up. Mainly, there could be the government itself, and the judiciary is one of those for sure. So let's use it judiciously. It's an amazing tool. We have 2 chatbots that we built, and I can tell you it's already saving us anywhere between 400 to 500 people, call center agents who would have been taking this call. Now, should they be doing something else? Absolutely. If they're not doing something else, we have a problem. But we also knew that we couldn't stay a country of call center agents forever. That's not very smart because that was going to get replaced, right? And Vietnam and others and Philippines they've been eating our lunch for a while. So if we didn't get a wake up call and get into value added services, so I think skilling becomes super important at this time. There is no dearth of brains. Unfortunately, they haven't had the right kind of schooling. So if we do it well, it can be our ally. If we don't, then we'll, I think, further worsen our problems.
Great. 10 seconds each of you. When will things come back to normal? And whatever you can define, whatever you think is normal.
So I don't think there will be the same normalcy that we had before. It's my view that we've changed the way things will work. There'll be new ways of working, new workplace policies, even the travel industry, which you touched on earlier. It took 9/11 to introduce TSA, and I'm quoting a colleague from the other day, but we will have new ways of commuting and traveling. I'm not going to, this is going to sound like a brag, but I did 49 trips last year. Based on this, I probably will never travel to the extent that I did in the last year. Because there will be different thought processes to what is necessary travel and what's not necessary travel. So I don't think we'll ever return to
Got it. Great. Rajiv?
I know you said 10 seconds and I've gone.
That's fine.
But I think middle of next year, we will probably have some semblance of a normal.
I think let's move, Rajiv, quickly, 10 seconds.
I think a lot, it will depend on when vaccines become available and get widely deployed. Then we'll return maybe to a new normal, but to at least out of this very, very strange, surreal situation that we are in.
Great. Manish, Deep.
It's above my pay grade.
Okay. No, I'll go with Rajiv. And in fact, funnily enough, while we were speaking, I saw something pop up on the Bloomberg news that Vladimir Putin has just announced the first registered vaccine, and one of his daughters has taken it. So who knows? Right? I mean, I think we forget very soon. So I'm with Rajiv. If we have a cure and can bring mortality rates really low, if we have a vaccine that works, I think we tend to forget and move on. So till the next pandemic comes, that's the scary one. I think these cycles are going to be shorter and sharper.